Lawmakers in the US have long pushed for more flights at Reagan National Airport despite repeated warnings from pilots about the dangers posed by military as well as other aircraft in the congested airspace over Washington. But now there are renewed questions about the safety concerns following the collision between the American Airlines regional jet and the Army Black Hawk helicopter earlier in the week. The issue was underscored by that Midair collision over the Potomac River, which has reignited scrutiny of the risks associated with the airport's limited space, as well as its very heavy traffic, particularly in peak hour. Reagan's proximity to key government sites like the White House and the Capitol building makes it a political favourite for those who are in charge, with Congress approving additional flights just last year despite opposition from many safety advocates in the area. Military helicopters often carrying officials further complicate the air traffic, with pilots warning for years that these aircraft operate far too close to commercial flights. A 2021 report found that nearly 90,000 helicopter flights occurred every year near the airport over 3 years, with more than a third conducted by the US military. Now, the recent crash involved a Black Hawk helicopter on a training mission and an American Airlines regional jet. Experts suggest that factors such as visibility issues, mechanical failures, or even flight path miscalculations may have contributed to the accident. Now, calls to reassess safety protocols are now growing, but past warnings have been often overlooked as policymakers prioritize convenience over that issue of caution. A third Army pilot on board the helicopter was gaining an annual check ride to determine whether or not he or she could keep flying the aircraft. This is according to the Army, which has not identified the service members. Doug Rice is a former American Airlines captain who landed many times at Reagan National and says helicopters in the airspace are restricted to flying 200 feet above the ground. But on Wednesday, the military helicopter collided about 400 feet in the air. That's led to even the president saying it was flying way too high, and concerns about how that may have happened. Was this a mechanical fault, perhaps? Now, Reagan National Airport sits on just 733 acres of land along the Potomac River, and Rice says he believed the flight from Wichita was correct on its final landing approach. The pilots of the regional jet may not have even seen the helicopter due to the backlighting, but the aircraft's collision avoidance system would have less functionality under 700 feet. The soldiers flying the Black Hawk may have spotted the wrong plane, and therefore they may have seen some mechanical fault with the helicopter. Whatever the reason, though, experts say the passengers, the crew, the pilots on the American Airlines flight got put in a box, and it was not their fault. Over the years, the number of such flights have grown. The helicopters involved in the crash belong to the 12th Aviation Battalion out of Fort Belvoir in Virginia, which is responsible for flying generals, cabinet secretaries, congressmen, and VIPs right across Washington at least once a day. Many of the pilots have been involved in a number of mid-air mishaps over the past year, including some involving Black Hawks as well. Just last year in 2024, at least 9 troops, 1 contractor, and 1 civilian died in collisions involving these Army helicopters. So the concern is a real threat, and obviously there will be a lot of focus on this. Such warnings, though, were nothing new, but questions about why the tower allows such close proximity from the military is a critical question. This is a pilot back in 2006 who was still concerned about that. Washington power backers clamoring to add routes, though, because the airport is their favorite. Some cities far from Washington largely shut out following the 1960s era rule that limited how far planes could actually travel from the then national airport. So in turn, long-haul flights were shifted to the Dallas International Airport further from the city, though exceptions have been made over the years. FBI now examining debris on the crash site, and of course, they're now trying to work out exactly what led to the collision.